Good morning, everybody. How is everyone this morning?
Great.
So I learned in the little introduction that we've got a little bit of a hostile audience here. Well, no, having worked with the other system, I understand on that level. But remember, I'm the guy that liked it. I kept talking about it for all these years and trying to make people like it with me. You know, it was funny. I was a little surprised to see such a large crowd gathering this morning. And then once Paul started talking, I realized. But I never imagined that so many people were going to want to come in this early and hear about our trip to Disney World. And yeah, that's my wife and I in front of the spaceship Earth at Epcot. But seriously, we're here to talk about the 2014 Corvette infotainment system. Infotainment. The infotainment word comes out of the combination of information and entertainment. So this system is officially, it's a great little computer as well as a multifunction entertainment device in your dashboard. This I thought was very important. When you bump into anyone from the GM or the Corvette team, please congratulate them on this. This is not your average system. I want to start with the top bullet here. This MyLink second generation system was actually voted best of show at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas for 2013. The reason that's significant is because the Consumer Electronics Show is where the Sonys and the Panasonics and the Hitachis and the Samsungs of the world come to debut their next year's models of TVs and cameras and audio systems and DVD players. And CNET, a technology website, felt that out of all the stuff that they looked at, the MyLink system was the best in show. That's pretty impressive. You couldn't possibly have said that about the last generation system, could you? Also of note, and this was one that I liked, CTIA, the Cellular Telecommunications Industry Association, voted this first place in their Emerging Technology Awards. And the award was in mobile apps, automotive navigation, and safe driving. So that should tell you a little bit about something. Tell you a little something about this system as well. So keep that in mind, and please congratulate the folks when you bump into them. All right, the components we're going to be talking about this morning, and let me offer up a couple of disclaimers. We're going to have a chance to do questions and answers this morning. If the question is about anything other than the topic, the answer is going to be, I don't know. Can't talk about anything else. A lot of things I just don't know. A lot of things I just can't say. So we're going to be talking about the main center screen, the MyLink system. You're going to hear me talk about the center screen. You're going to hear me talk about the IP or the instrument panel. I'm going to be talking about the user interface, the selector switch on the spoke of the steering wheel. And I'm going to be talking about the nav system last. And that's only because the nav system is an optional component of the MyLink system. Everything else that you see on the screen is included with any trim level Stingray. The navigation system can be included with any trim level, but it's not standard equipment. So what do we know? We know that the system comes equipped with two 8-inch 720p high-def displays. One in the center stack at the radio, and one in the instrument panel in the center of the gauge cluster. It's a 650 nit screen, and that's luminance intensity. The center stack screen is 1,000 nits, and as a level of comparison, the iPad 4, latest and greatest Retina display device from Apple, is only 407 nits white level brightness. So that'll indicate how bright this system is, and it'll let you know that you're not going to have problems like you did with the C6 screen washing out as you turned your back to the sun, or you had your top off or your top down in that car. We're going to talk about the multi-touch center display navigation screen. We've got multi-touch, we've got hard keys, and the four-way selector switch are going to be the primary ways that you interface with the screen. We're going to talk about some of the others. We've retained hard keys for power and volume and mute, the different radio modes. We're going to talk about the media ports, home screen and menu functions, back button, and the hard key functionality. I'll just show it and mention it for the climate controls. And Paul and I were talking a little bit about the Q system. That's one of the things that the people don't like about the brand new Q system. The Q system doesn't retain that hard key functionality. The MyLink system knows that people want to be able to work from muscle memory. They want to know how many buttons to count over and push without taking their eyes off the road. The Q system screen has little hard markers around the screen, and when you approach the screen, the menu system comes back up. But this one, you can always have the hard keys. You can do pretty much anything without interacting with the screen. But if you need to get to the touchscreen, it's there too in a multifunction setup. Connectivity for the system is available with 3 USB ports, 1 SD media drive, 1 3.5mm auxiliary port, Bluetooth connection and streaming, and there are 2 accessory outlets in the car, one located in the center console, one located on the center console, and I'll show some images of that. I was going to hold questions till the end, but if we think we can do it sort of interactive, and if we think I can keep the answers short, which is difficult for me, we can do it so that as you see something that you want to ask about, raise your hand and let's holler out the question. We've got 90 minutes this morning. This is going to be just an overview of the system. This isn't a tutorial or a how-to on how to use the system because there just isn't enough time in the session. So I see a hand up in the rear.
Yes, on the screen, the brightness, is that adjustable?
Yes, it is.
That's nice.
Yeah, the screen is adjustable. You're going to find that pretty much everything is adjustable. All right.
Say where the ports are located in the car again.
There are 2 USB ports inside the center console with the SD slot with the 3.5mm auxiliary port. There is 1 USB port located behind the center screen. And there is the 2 electrical outlets, the cigarette lighter plugs, one on top of the center console to the right of the shifter in front of the cup holder, and one located inside the center console. And you just reminded me, there is a third, but it's used for a different purpose. There's a third accessory plug in the back where the battery is, so you can plug in your trickle charger if you've got a cigarette lighter type power adapter. This is what oh, sorry, was there another question? Yes?
Yeah, you cautioned us about staying on topic. I
Yes,
noticed your topic was Chevrolet MyLink, not Corvette MyLink. I just picked up a few days ago a 2014 Camaro with all the goodies.
Yep.
Does it have MyLink?
The Corvette has MyLink. What I don't know is which generation of MyLink. I know specifically that our version of MyLink in the Corvette is shared with the Silverado and the Malibu.
You mean in the Camaro?
No, in the one in the Corvette that we're talking about this morning is shared with the Silverado and the Malibu at this point, the 2014.
Okay.
Is your new Camaro a 14?
Yes.
Okay, it might. I just don't know if it is or not. Maybe some things will be familiar as we go through, and then we'll both learn together. And I'll ask the question afterwards as well. So I took this picture keeping the analog instruments in frame and at the right light balance, and let the screen just overglow so that you can see how bright that center cluster is in the binnacle on the instrument panel. 650 nits is quite bright. 1000 on the center stack is amazing. And don't be afraid to holler, because I will turn towards the screen sometimes and you could be raising your hand and I don't want to be ignoring you. And sometimes it's a little bit dark in the back, so I may not pick up on the hand raise, so go ahead and ask the questions. You've heard me talk about multi-gestures now a couple of times this morning. How many people have iPads or Android tablets or similar? Okay, everybody with their hand up has used a multi-touch screen. All multi-touch means is, unlike a historical touch screen, which was you touched a place to make something happen and it didn't really do anything else, that's a resistive touch screen. You're basically closing 2 contacts at the location where you're touching, and it lets whatever software know to do something. This is a capacitive touch screen, so it's multi-touch capable. It relies on the electrical conductivity of your finger, and you can slide across this type of a screen. So you see the gestures that I have up the top as examples. Typical, like any touch screen, you can press and make something happen. But additionally, you can slide, you can swipe to change screens, you can swipe down to scroll menus, you can pinch on the nav screen to zoom. Put your fingers together on the screen and spread them apart, and the nav screen will zoom out. and or zoom in technically. If you spread them apart and pinch together, it will zoom in. So that's multi-touch. In addition to the multi-touch on the center screen, this is going to be your primary interface with the instrument panel. Steering wheel, four-way hat switch, and selection button. When you start the car, error messages come up and you used to hit the clear button on the DIC controls on the right-hand side. You'll use the select button for that function now. You'll move around the instrument panel menus with this four-way switch, and you'll select things with the selection button. And then lastly, we talked about the retained hard keys. These are beneath the screen of the radio. So there's a screen for radio, for media, a home screen. On the other side of the menu button is fast forward and fast reverse, and a back button which will always take you back to the previous menu. The menu button in the center works a lot like the select button here. You press it, it brings up a menu, and then you also use it as your selection key. The outer ring of the menu button is a rotating knob, and you use that to scroll up and down or side to side with menus that are available on the screen. So you don't have to touch, you don't have to do anything. You can reach over, press the button, spin the knob, press the button, and you're done. In terms of the overall control strategy on the steering wheel, there is the location of your four-way switch and your select button. Your voice call functions are at the top. Initiate the call and end the call for your telephone communications. You've got the four-way selector. On the lower right-hand side, beside the airbag on the steering wheel, your volume up and down keys. On the lower left side, you can move your favorites, select forward or select back with your favorites. And on the left side of the steering wheel, you've got your cruise control. A problem that I have with my left brain, right brain, and I'll talk a little bit about it with the menu structure on the system, there are different menus that come up on the instrument panel, and different key presses cause menus to come up in different places. There's a lot of similarity between the feel of these two keys and these two keys. I've turned off the cruise control in the car more than once, trying to move the arrows, and that's because when I see a menu come up on the left side of the screen, I tend to want my left hand to start doing things. So I think that's more my problem than anyone else's, but be aware of it. You don't want it, it would probably more dramatically affect the people around you on the highway than it would you. Okay, there's the main MyLink screen for the car. You can see it's set up with apps. For the folks that use tablets, iPads and such, very similar. The basic setup, you're looking at the normal main screen as it exists right now from the factory. So there's audio, there's phone, there's the red phone portion is to interact with phone systems on your phone. The microphone phone system is to initiate calling and features and options of the car interacting with your phone. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a question. Yes?
Is there a mute key on this thing?
There is. As a matter of fact, the power button to the top left corner of the screen, if you press and hold, is the power button. If you tap it, it's the mute button. It will also automatically mute when a call comes in, when you initiate a call. But if you just want the audio to go quiet, just tap that button, don't press and hold, and you'll get the mute function. And that also serves as, the outer ring serves as the volume knob. Neat thing about this system is it's configurable, but it's also open source. So expect more things to happen over time. There is a developer's kit that's out, much like for the tablets that we all use. And things like email apps and messaging apps, and I don't know if there's ever going to be games. I don't know why there would be, but I would guess some enterprising person would decide we needed to play checkers while we were driving. But it's going to be possible because the developer's kit is out there. The next screen is the edit mode for the screen, much like an iPad. And I apologize, I am sort of an Apple junkie. I've got an iPhone and I've got an iPad. So when I reference tablets or smartphones, in my mind, I'm talking iPhones and tablets, iPads. So press and hold on any one of the icons, and these brackets will come up around them. And you see down the bottom, the screen changes, and it says Edit Mode, press Home button to exit. When you're in edit mode, you can move all of these screens around. You see the arrows to the left and right side of the screen. Those indicate, and that feature down the bottom there indicates that there's another menu page available. So you can use those arrows to scroll to that page and back. You can swipe to scroll to that page and back. And if you want to rearrange the position of these icons, press and hold on the phone button. You'll see it raise up. And then you can take it with your finger, just slide across the screen and drop it into that slot right there. The phone and the nav icons will move over, and then it would be audio, phone, phone, nav. Yes, sir?
So that's like on the iPad, something when you hold them,
They start shaking, exactly correct.
So this is the same. So this will raise up to indicate that mode.
Yeah, you know exactly when it's happened. It's very obvious on the screen by the press and hold. You'll see it juxtaposed from the rest of the icons.
Can you do it while you're driving, or do you
I believe that's locked out unless it senses a passenger in the seat. This system does improve upon the previous generation. There's a lot of interactivity. Voice activation is 100 times better than it was in the previous car. It doesn't have problems with dialects. It has much less problem with wind noise. You don't need to tell it the exact command in the exact syntax and the exact context with the exact pronunciation that the developer was looking for. You can say, find me restaurants on my route, and it will. You can say, play FM 92.3, and it will. You can say, change to XM mode, and it will. And it's wonderful in that regard. But as far as interacting with the navigation system, yes, if there is a passenger present in the vehicle, because everybody was trying to get them to do something with the navigation, and they'd always use the reasoning of, well, if my spouse is in the car, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to do this. They gave you exactly what you wished for. When somebody is sitting in the passenger seat, and no, a backpack will not work, or a bag of groceries, or a 25-pound weight plate, or anything the like, it needs to, it's not only looking for a specific minimum weight, it's looking for a specific distribution of weight on the sensor. Sir?
The C6 has a terrible reflective problem on the screen.
Yes.
Can you solve that with this?
Very much so. Very, very much so. Your screen should never get washed out again like that one did. You know what, I'm sorry, I actually don't know. I've never used polarizing lenses while interacting with the system, so I can't say. And I'm going to say it probably does not, because of the type of screen that it is, much like an iPad or an Android tablet isn't affected by polarizing lenses. I remember the LCD screen on my climate control would get this very, very horrible rainbow effect on it when I would have my old sunglasses on, but the nav screen was never affected by that, and this is much the same. So there's a close-up of the retained hard keys, and then also you see the climate control features. I didn't put up the climate control buttons and the seat heating and cooling buttons, which are normally down here. It wasn't as relevant to the discussion this morning, but they're also there right below here. So your power on and off for the system is here. Your temperature setting is here, and your fan speed, and your fan speed control is right there for the driver's side. The passenger side controls are on the passenger side HVAC vent. There's a button that from the driver's seat you can sync the controls. It will tie them together. You can make the adjustment. It will update theirs and yours. And then you can go back to individual control by simply interacting with your controls again, or they can with their controls. Yes, sir?
On the open source for the apps, do the apps have to be approved by GM, and are they going to have some kind of app store or something like that?
I haven't been involved in it all. I don't have any familiarity with what the plan is. I don't want to talk to a rumor or anything, but personal opinion, and if I had to guess, I'm going to say yes, most definitely there will have to be an approval process for, I would say, very obvious reasons. And I would imagine that there's going to be some restrictions on the type of things that can be introduced for the vehicle. Okay, to the bottom of the power mute volume button, there's a screen key, and I'm guessing by now most have seen this. Anybody that hasn't seen this? Okay, good. What I did was I tried to give the size of the container a little bit of perspective. That is an iPhone 5 in an OtterBox case. It's the one that I'm wearing on my belt inside of the container to give you a relative idea of its width. Its depth will allow for the phone to lie the long way on its back all the way inside behind the screen. And what you see just behind my phone is a USB plug that you can plug in and charge your phone and interact with the system with your phone plugged in via the USB. Different phones and different software are going to react differently with the system. The iPhone will have its level of functionality, and Android phones are going to have their level of functionality. There's a differing level of functionality between USB connection and Bluetooth streaming connection. So different strokes for different folks, basically, in terms of how it works out. I found the most interaction using an iPhone plugged in via a cable. So
USB 2 or 3?
this, to the best of my knowledge, it's USB 2.
And so you just bring the screen down and you put your phone on it?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if you press this button here, it will power the screen down. It exposes this compartment. You can put your phone back there. You can store some things that you don't want anyone to see. It's actually kind of neat. Thank you. Yeah. It's actually neat because there is a valet mode, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, but oh, it's actually right there. Thank you, great segue. The car has a valet mode. When you valet the car, or if you're going to give the keys to somebody that you just don't want them to be able to do stuff with, you can password protect these. This compartment is electronic. The glove box in front of the passenger's knees has an electronic lock, and the fuel door has an electronic lock. When the car is unlocked, they are all unlocked. When the car is locked, they are all locked. When you enter valet mode, you can lock out anybody from being able to access the screen or make changes to the system. They can't, if you put kind of 4-digit PIN number in, they can't raise and lower the screen, so you can hide stuff in there, lock it. It's very protected, quite secure. Question in the back.
A lot of those phones are affected by high temperature. Does it get pretty hot in that compartment?
Not that I have experienced. That doesn't say very much. I haven't driven the car for a 24-hour endurance trip or a long road trip or anything to that effect. My understanding is it is well insulated specifically for that reason, because phones generate their own heat. Charging generates heat. The vehicle right behind the firewall obviously generates heat, and the compartment is actually quite well insulated from what I've experienced. Yes?
Will we get free upgrades to the system, or are we going to have to pay $500 for it?
Well, the whole system only costs $795 to have the nav system included in your vehicle. My hope for is it wouldn't be $500. I can officially say I don't know. My understanding is that the upgrade path for the navigation is going to be via the dealer, and it's going to be supplied via the USB port, so they will interact with the system by plugging in a USB dongle, going into a control screen, downloading the updates. So there are no more DVDs, no more East and West region, no more things like that to worry about. But in terms of the actual administration of the upgrades, the facilitation of the upgrades, the cost of the upgrades, I don't actually know.
One thing I don't think I mentioned during my introduction is that Paul is not an employee of General Motors. Paul is the Vice President of Engineering and Technical Sales for Design Mark, and he consults with Chevrolet and I guess General Motors on this system, and has a very good relationship with them because of his background and his knowledge. So with the specific questions such as will you have to pay to get an upgrade, I'm sure you're not plugged into the marketing side of what Chevrolet's going to do.
No, and I don't think I saw Harlan come in this morning.
No.
Sorry?
No, but he's the one that could answer all these questions.
Go see Harlan.
Yeah.
Sorry, Harlan. Okay, the settings menu. That is the little gear icon on the main screen. The system tries to do a good job of letting you know where you are when you start navigating through the menu structure. For those of you with a 6th generation Corvette, the driver's information center and the vehicle personalization settings and the options settings, this is basically that function. This is one of, I'll venture to say, hundreds of menus and screens. So the settings menu is going to give you settings to all of your personalization settings. There's the valet mode that I talked about, your language, your driving mode, time and data settings, so on. So this is going to be your preferences. I haven't talked about the chevron that you see down the bottom there, and this is a good screen to actually do it on. You'll find that feature on most screens that you interact with, and that's the favorites recall. You can recall the favorites by using the paddle switch by your left hand on the steering wheel, but you can also bring up the favorite button anytime you see this chevron on the screen, and I've got a couple of screenshots further into the presentation where you'll actually see the favorite screen up. Favorites are pretty neat in this car because they're universal across media modes and systems. You can store as favorite contacts, phone numbers, addresses, favorites from the various media modes, AM, FM, XM, HD radio, MP3s. So it's all available to be stored as a favorite, and if the source is available when you go to recall it, it will recall it. Talk a little bit about the audio side of the system. This is just kind of a general screenshot. I do want to apologize and put a disclaimer out there because some of the screens that you see will probably differ from the screens that you get in your vehicles. How many have a Stingray on order or are contemplating ordering one? Okay. All right. So some of these screens differ a little bit than the current screens that are out. The system is constantly evolving, and they're working to make sure they get it exactly where they want it to be and where you're going to want it to be. So some things may differ a bit, but in terms of the general functionality, you're going to see them. So we talked about the audio connectivity. You've got 3 USB ports. You can plug in a USB thumb drive. You can plug in an iPod. You can plug in anything that can stream music via a USB connection. If you've got a lot of CDs, the car doesn't come with a CD player. If you just can't let go of your CDs, go to Amazon, buy a Sony Walkman portable CD player, plop your CDs in it, and plug it in via the headphone jack to the 3.5 millimeter port, and you can play your CDs to your heart's content, but the car doesn't have any means to play compact discs. Streaming via Bluetooth actually has fantastic audio quality in the car. It's a completely wireless connection, so any of your devices that are Bluetooth enabled, it's a good vehicle to get your music across if you don't want to take the time to plug stuff in or keep a cable in the car. I think there's an option. He asked if there was an 8-track player available. And you're not the first person that's actually asked me that, surprisingly. Thomas, was it you? Yeah. All right. The media support that's built into the system is optimized for 2 connected devices with up to 8,000 songs. So what that means is if you go fill up all the ports, it's really only going to pay attention to the first 2 you plugged in. And if you have your entire life in music, it's only going to pay attention to the first 8,000 songs. It just won't reconcile beyond that. And if you think of a song as 3 minutes a piece, that's a lot of music. You could go for a really, really long drive with less than 8,000 songs. So for the organized among us, it has a maximum file structure depth of 11 nested files. What does that mean? That means if you want to put artists in folders with songs, in folders with genres, in folders with playlists, in folders with albums, don't do it. Because it's just going to get confused and it won't look deep enough to find all of your really good stuff. So just take your songs, dump them in the root directory. It's smart enough to read the track information and the ID tags that are embedded in MP3 audio files. And it will know all of that stuff anyway, so when you select artists, it's going to bring up your list by artist name. And when you select album, it's going to bring up your list by album name. So don't feel like you need to preload or give it any of that information ahead of time. The audio system is integrated with the voice activation and recognition features. You can say play an artist name or play a song name in normal spoken English, and it does. Sir?
Hey Paul, a question I have. With my former vehicles, if I lose power, I tend to lose the memory settings and things like that. Does this system assure that that does not happen?
Assure is such a strong word. This system is intended to not lose any of your memory informations when you program them in. Is that okay?
The effort will be considerable making it happen the first time.
Exactly correct. One of the things that's nice about this, and anybody that's interacted with this type of system, if you've got an iPod that's got 2,000 songs on it, the prior generation, the 2012 MyLink system in the Camaro that I played around with, it took a really long time to reconcile all of the music on my phone because it has to index it. It goes and looks at your music and it wants to know the artist and the album and the song title and all of that information. And it was 5 minutes before I could play a song. This one is not like that at all. I don't want to say that it's instantaneous, but it's simultaneous. When you plug it in, it immediately presents you with information, and it continues indexing and scrolling in the background, but you can play a song as soon as a song appears on the screen, which is wonderful. It's phenomenal. So another little improvement that I was very pleased with. Screen scrolling and audio interaction, for those of you that have a 6th generation Corvette, is much better. It's much more fluid. It's much more intuitive. It's faster. These are the ports. This photo is taken from the back of the center console facing the front of the car. So the center stack and climate controls are here, and the instrument panel is basically over here. This is the very front edge of the center console. There are 2 of the 3 USB ports. There's the 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch phono jack for auxiliary audio. It is a input only, don't plug speakers into it, nothing will happen. Plug your device's headphone jack into it and music will come out your car. This is the SD card slot, and that's the auxiliary power. This was produced by Bose. If you want to go out and learn a little bit about the Bose Centerpoint system, you can find this out on Bose's website. You can find this out in the internet and various forums that presented it. There's a lot of in-depth information that Bose released in a press release. They're obviously very proud of this system. The Centerpoint system, and I want to be specific about that, the Centerpoint system is specifically the system that comes in the 2LT and the 3LT cars. The 9-speaker system is not classified as a Bose Centerpoint system, but it is still an improved audio system. The difference between the 9-speaker and the 10-speaker system is the 8-inch subwoofer and the 14-liter bass box on the back wall of the rear compartment. So that right there is an 8-inch sub, and this entire enclosure surrounding the sub is a 14-liter subwoofer enclosure.
Is it on the convertible?
Yes, it is. Yeah, so much like the 2012 and on Corvettes, you've got a center channel speaker, you've got 2 1-inch speakers on top of the dashboard, you've got your main subwoofers in each of the doors in this location, you've got your main mid-range in the doors in this location here, and you've got a mid-range just behind the driver's seat on the B-pillar, just below the B-pillar, and same thing on the other side. Yes?
How much is that in the convertible?
I couldn't hear that.
How much of that is in the convertible?
All of it?
All the speakers?
Yep. Sir?
Not being an audiophile, what does that number 6 do for you?
Number 6 produces low frequency sounds. Bass. When you pull up beside the car at the red light,
The one next to you,
and the one next to you is going. That's bass. Now. Now when he does that, you can do this. Because this is really loud. Bose has recorded this as the highest decibel audio output of any system they've put in any vehicle. For those of us hearing impaired, you will not have any problem hearing any of your music. And it still sounds very good. I am not an audiophile either. I enjoy music. I don't have any musical taste. I like music of all styles. But I played in rock bands for too many years, and I'm a drummer. So, you know, I'm starting to lose a little bit of acuity in my hearing. But there is a notable, remarkable improvement in this audio system over prior generations' audio systems.
Is your audio from your DAC or all speakers?
It does. Well, it is configurable. It can go out just the front speakers. It has quite a bit of adjustment, both in the form of equalization and fading speaker placement to the left, to the right. There are digital processing modes that are available through the system to make it a two-speaker high-fidelity stereo system, or you can make it a surround system. You can have it so that it biases the driver compartment. You can have it so that it biases the rear compartment. You can raise the bass, lower the bass. It's amazingly configurable. I found 2 different screens of just audio settings, not inclusive of the menu pre-select center point features that are part of the digital processing. Phone will also come through all of those. And your microphone for the phone is sort of in the same place as it was in the C6. It's right on the A-pillar, but it's on the side of the A-pillar that actually faces you. It's not tucked in like the C6 one was. This one, it's visible when you look up and see it. Is there another question? Yes?
What's the wattage on the amplifier?
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I probably should have looked into that. Didn't occur to me to ask.
What was the question?
Oh, the question was, what is the wattage on the system?
A lot.
It's loud enough to be classified as a boatload.
When you purchase the vehicle, is everything sort of centered? You don't have to go in and program.
Correct.
I mean, it's just for
it's perfectly fine. You can tailor it to your preferences, but right out of the box, it's going to work quite nicely, very well, in my opinion.
Is the amplifier located in the passenger footwell again, like in previous models?
The amplifier is actually, to the best of my knowledge, the digital processor is number 7, and it's back here.
Okay. Back on.
Yes?
Does the base box intrude in the luggage space at all?
The base box is included in the cubic foot measurement of cargo capacity for the vehicle as published. It is pretty tucked into the back wall of the compartment, so it's not proud in any way of the entire back wall, so you don't have to worry about bumping into it or having any issues there. I'm going to say that you may have lost a couple of inches of cargo volume there as a result of it being there.
Do you know by chance that any of the cars on display here have this?
Yes.
So you may look at one of the cars on display.
I know for a fact that Will's car has it. I know for a fact that the Crystal Red has it. I'm pretty sure that the Laguna Seca Blue that's out on the plaza has it as well. So if you can get the rear hatch open on any of the vehicles, you'll see it tucked right along the back wall. Okay, this is one of the screens. I happened to be playing Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine at the time I took the picture. On the left you see a scrollable list. This is by song. So you've got song list present here, a scrollable menu. You can press on this bar, drag your finger down the screen, and it will scroll past. You can flick your finger on the screen and it will scroll down. Neat feature for those with iPhones and iPods. This is cover flow. This is album art. So embedded in the ID tag is the album that this was on. and it will present to you the album cover for the music that you're listening to if you have it present in your ID tag. Along the bottom is the menu structure, and every screen that you interact with has a voice activation recognition button right here. So you can press that, it will beep just like the previous system did, and you can ask it something, tell it something, and it will respond with either help commands if it didn't understand you. You can ask for help and it will give you some thoughts on what you might say. It will accept plain spoken English. Anybody that's used an iPhone is familiar with the Siri system as part of the iPhone. This is like Siri, but I consider it to be better because this is local to the vehicle. Siri has to go out to a database, something has to process the recorded information that it heard and turn it into digital information that it can then search on. This actually does all of that locally. It doesn't go out to anywhere, it doesn't have to connect with anything else. It's built into the system, so it's quicker. But the trade-off, Siri has an unlimited vocabulary. This one ultimately is going to have a limited vocabulary. It's bound to find something it doesn't recognize, but in my interaction with the system, I haven't discovered it yet. So, by playlist, by artist, by album, by song, by genre, you've got a lot at your disposal. The menu structure is neat. You can press the menu button and make it come up. You can also just tap the screen and make it come up. After a period of inactivity, the menus will go away and you get the full feature of all of the screen. So this area is menu here. Tapping the screen brings that up. Not interacting with it for a few seconds, it goes away. That's one thing similar to the Q system. The Q system has a proximity sensor. As you approach the screen, it senses that you want to do something and the menus come up. This one doesn't do that. It doesn't sense proximity, it senses touch. So when you tap the screen, it will come back up. I saw a hand go up over there.
Well, I think you just answered my question.
Okay.
In the Cadillac, if you get within 6 inches of that screen, it does stuff.
Yeah,
this one doesn't.
This does not have that proximity sensing. You have to touch to interact with it. It's more tactile than the Q system is. I talked about the favorites menu. Favorites menu is cool. If you have a song playing on the radio, press and hold one of the favorites buttons and it's going to store that station. If you have an MP3 playing, press and hold one of the favorites buttons, it's going to store that favorite. It's going to tell, in this screen you can see your source information, you can see your playback options, you can see your mute, continuous play. Album art is present again. You can press the browse button and, you can press the browse button and the browse button is going to bring up a alphanumeric listing down the side and you can tap a letter and browse through your available selections. You can bring up a song list. If it happens to be on a radio media mode, it'll bring up a list of stations that are available, XM or AM, FM, bless you. Just a couple of examples of the instrument panel screen interacting with the audio system. So again, you know, in the same session, I had Bill Withers playing there, and Bill Withers information. If you have one of the audio feature options up on the IP, you can get your audio information to appear there. One really neat feature about this, and I haven't investigated it a lot, I discovered it. If you, let's say, have your oil pressure gauge here, and you've got Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine playing on your radio stack, if you take your finger and swipe across the face of the audio, it will change to this screen and get you your audio information on the IP. So if you indicate to it that you want to see it, press and swipe, it will change this display, and now you'll have your audio interactions available there. So you can very quickly, if you want to use the steering wheel selector and make some changes about your audio source or the music, and you don't want to go hunting through all the menus to find it, you can very quickly say, give me audio, audio will appear here, and then you can start interacting with that screen. So, and FM, it can display station, it can display, if there had been a station tuned here, it would display song information. If it's a favorite, it'll let you know it's a favorite. So these are the browse selection. Yes, sorry.
And information that's on the instrument panel,
Some of it shows in the head-up display, and it's dependent upon what mode the head-up display is in as well. I'll talk a little bit about the head-up display. The interaction with the head-up display is on par with what it was in the C6 in terms of display of information. Much crisper, much clearer, much better head-up display screen, full color screen, but you're not going to get album art and all of that stuff up on the head-up display. Sir?
And you put only one item in that display, or two different types of items?
In this display?
Yes.
Well, it's a trick question, and I'm going to give you the long way around answer. What you see on the screen in front of you is the entire display. So right now, on the center display, you've got your oil pressure, you've got your water temperature, you've got your gear selection, you've got your driver mode, you have your odometer, you have your high beams, you have your tachometer, you have a warning light, and oh, by the way, you also have the audio display and the speedometer there. So the direct, honest engineer's answer is, yeah, you can have a ton of stuff up there. As far as just this portion of it here, no, one thing at a time.
Can you put oil temperature or tire pressures up there anywhere?
Yes, and I've got a ton more to talk to, and I've got a whole bunch on the instrument panel itself. So if you don't mind, I'm going to table that, and we'll cover it when we get to the IP stuff. And I think where are we, about 10 o'clock?
Yeah, about 10:50.
Quarter till? Oh, even better. Oh, good, I'm only halfway done. Good, good. So, other examples of the screens, there's radio stations. It lets you know if the radio station is displaying info. You can see it here. If it's marked as a favorite, you can see it. You can scroll down the list. You can jump way ahead in the number sequence if you want, just by touching further down the list. You can bring up your favorites and tag that station as a favorite. Same thing with the XM channel, same thing with the AM channels. We'll talk a little bit about to the telephone portion. Sorry about the screenshot. It's blurry. I know it's blurry. It's there just to not show you a bunch of information, but I can talk to some of the basic features. The interaction of the phone screen is actually pretty amazing. You can connect via Bluetooth or via your USB cable. You can get access to the calling features, contacts via the touch screen. There's a phone sub-menu on the IP. The phone sub-menu will get you access to basic calling information as well, so you can initiate a call, you can end a call, you can call a recent number dialed, you can view your recently called list, you can call your voicemail from the system. And additionally, caller ID, call waiting, conference calling, voicemail, and available keypad dialing. So you can bring up a phone keypad right on the center display and dial a phone number. You can also use phone numbers for searches, but only of points of interest. It's not going to know if you enter a phone number for one of your friends or for yourself. If it's not in the POI database, it's not going to know it. So, sir.
Does this system shut off if you're going too fast?
No.
I have trouble paying attention now.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end, because this is one of those systems that you can get lost in eyes on or eyes in versus eyes on. So as a pilot, I think about things like task saturation and switchology. That's why I talk about muscle memory. Yeah, please, folks, be careful. Don't start messing with menus. If you think you could get lost in the DIC on the C6, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is very deep, very, very involved. So this is the center screen display of what you can deal with the telephone. This is the IP display when you're on that same call. So you can end the call using the end the call button on the steering wheel. You can end the call using the end the call button there. You can hang up the phone. If you pick up your phone to go and dial a call, it'll ask you if you want to have it on the system or have it on the phone. If you initiate a call from the system, it'll ask you if you want to switch it. You've got the ability to switch it to your phone via the handset button. If you've got a number that you like, bring up the favorites, press and hold the favorite button. It'll store the number as a favorite to the car. You know, my iPhone was plugged in. It shows you your available charge and your signal strength, both there and here. The system charges your device that you've got plugged into the USB port, and it's a powerful charger. It will charge an iPad. So for those people that have iPads and know that there's a difference in the current output of USB sockets, this one can deal with the amperage required for an iPad. All right, instrument panel. That's a view of the cold and dark instrument panel in its entirety. This is the center display, instrumentation here, instrumentation there, and this is your dash panel right there. So something we've never had in our cars before, user configurable instrument panel. It can be tied to driver mode selection, that's the default, or it can be individualized to your preference and saved with your memory settings. Last feature recall if you have 2LT or 3LT with the memory settings. So to the left side of the configurable display, we've got an analog speedometer. To the right side of the configurable display, you have a gas gauge and you have your water temperature gauge. And I have to chuckle. I spent some time on Corvette forum. I like talking with folks, helping folks out if I can answer questions. I've been on there for 10 years. For the first time yesterday, someone noticed, and there was a big thread about it. Somebody noticed that gas gauges don't say E and F anymore. They say 0 and 1, and apparently this was the end of this person's world. And the thing that I found most amusing is the person, from their profile, I could determine drove a C6, and the C6 had this the entire time from 2005 on. Empty and full are English words. E and F represent empty and full. They don't translate necessarily into other languages. 1, less than 1, 1/2, less than 1/2, 0. Math translates worldwide. Anybody can look at this instrument and determine its state. But so it's funny the things that people notice, and people want to notice on the Stingray, but have never noticed on their other vehicles.
Paul?
Yes.
I noticed on that, you said these are fixed analog gauges?
The speedometer,
Yeah.
the speedometer, the fuel gauge, and the water temperature gauge are fixed analog gauges. They are not configurable, they're not changeable, they are just like the gauges that you have in your existing vehicles. When the car starts up, you can just make out the needle there, there, and there. The backlighting is incredible on them. When you first view them, they actually appear to be part of the digital display, but they're just very dark and very well backlit when you power the vehicle up.
Can you switch to metric?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you will be able to change, just like in the C6, you'll be able to change the mode from US to metric. So, was that another question?
No,
oh, okay. Yeah, keep your eye on him because he is trouble.
See, now that we have people coming up from the south
well, we have people coming from the north, too, and they got the same problem.
You guys all set?
No, we lose here.
Okay. Yes.
I also noticed on the fuel gauge, you confuse it with the C6 when it's horizontal like that.
Yes.
That's full.
Yes.
Okay, C6 there is in.
Yes. Does everybody know what that means? I just have to have fun at this point because that's apparently something else that people had never seen before. And it doesn't have a lot to do with the presentation, that's just me having fun, so I'm sorry, I'll try to get focused and back on track. So we're going to be talking about this section of the IP for the rest of this part of the presentation. The IP is very, very, very configurable. These gauges are called pocket gauges in particular modes, and the mode is indicated here. In particular modes of the instrument panel, you can bring up different information. The pocket gauges will be there in some modes, it's not there in other modes. The tachometer changes depending upon the mode that you're in. This is your gear selection. Displays for either automatic or manual transmission. It doesn't matter, it knows what gear you're in. So, for the math geeks, and you want to talk about the possible permutations of the configurable instrument panel, there are 5 driver modes: Weather, Eco, Tour, Sport, and Track. There are 3 themes to influence the displays of those 5 modes, and there are 6 configuration menus that can influence the themes and change the displays based on the driver mode. So at a minimum, it's 6 times 3 times 5, and that's how much you can mess around with. So that's why I said, look at the road, not the instrument panel when you're driving. Get used to where things are, set up your favorites before you set out on the cross-country trip with other people around you. Yes, sir?
Or if 2 different people are in the car and I have a fob and my wife has a fob, and I have it set up the way I want it, and
Yes.
then she gets it, will it change to the way she likes?
Same scenario as with the C6. If you have memory settings and you have multiple fobs in the vehicle, it will default to the numerically lowest fob that it senses. If your fob is number 1, her fob is number 2, it will default to fob number 1. If you guys are on a road trip and you want to change seats,
right,
have her press the 2 button on the door and all of her information will be there. Make sure you program that stuff and get the favorites in, because it will drop to a default, and when it changes memory modes, everything you had is gone. All of your favorites, all of your station settings, all of your presets, they disappear with the memory mode. So when you change that, it will go to nowhere if you change it.
But when I get back in the seat, I can hit it?
Absolutely. If you get in first, it should see your fob first. If it doesn't, you can just hit the 1 button and it will reset and recycle and it will be back in your mode.
Okay.
So we talked about all the permutations. The configurable pocket gauge is immediately to the left and right of the center tack. There's also menus that work with the sub-menus of the center display, and that's all interacted with the steering wheel controls, left and right, up and down arrows on the steering wheel. There's additional performance data available in the track mode, and in place of the pocket gauges in track mode, there are subordinate displays that come up beneath the tachometer, and this is information and styling that was gleaned directly from Corvette racing. So Charlie, I know where your display is going to be set all the time. I talk about driver mode. I don't know if anyone hasn't seen this. I guess I'd be surprised, but this is looking straight down at the center console area on the new Stingray. I'm talking about driver mode selection. That's accomplished here. Rotate the outer ring. What used to be just Tour and Sport settings on the F55 suspension now changes the driver mode through Weather, Tour, Eco, Sport, and Track. Weather, Eco, Tour, Sport, and Track. This is the electronic parking brake. Gear selection, obviously. This is a cup holder. And there's a center divider right here that when you open that cup holder, just pinch the center divider, you can pull it out, and then it becomes one large storage area. So if you wanted to switch from putting cups in there to putting your sunglasses in there, for example, it'll fit them very nicely. And this is the other auxiliary power outlet. You press here, it's spring-loaded, it pops up, and on about a 45-degree angle, there's a auxiliary power outlet facing you. So if you have another device that you need to plug in, you can do so there. Okay, options menu. I don't have to, I can point. Anytime you're interacting with the IP, the instrument panel, if you see white arrows to the right and left or up and down, that means there's additional information available in that direction. It is intuitive. If you see the right arrow is illuminated, you use the right arrow. If you see the, darn it, If you see the left arrow is illuminated, you use the left arrow. If you want to do something top and bottom arrows.
And those are on the wheel.
Those are on the wheel. This is the right spoke of the center of the steering wheel. So pressing the left arrow when that is illuminated on any screen brings up this menu. This is what I'll call the main menu for the instrument panel. From here, using the up and down arrows, you can scroll through, and the icon will change to the word when you select on it. So I becomes information. That's your performance menu, your audio menu, your phone menu, your navigation menu, and your settings menu. And I apologize for the blurriness of this, but it's enlarged considerably from a photograph, but I wanted it to illustrate in this way. So press to the left, press on information, and then you'll have options that become available different in the information menu via the up and down menus than you'll have in the performance versus the audio versus the phone. That changes the menu structure here, and it also changes the menus that are available here. For example, if you're on audio on the left menu, and you'll know where you are from here, if you press the right menu on audio, you'll get to a source selector. You can scroll through your media types. You can change from AM to FM to XM. If you're on the, like I was in this case, if you're on the settings, and you go to this menu, and right before units is the driver mode selector. When you get the driver mode selector screen, press the right arrow, you'll get the link to driver mode. Now the good news is there's a lot, the bad news is there's a lot to this. The good news is that the engineers know that there's a lot to it and they planned for that. The car ships by default from the factory in tour mode, which is the middle of the road setting that it's believed that most people are going to stay in. And it defaults to link to driver mode. And all that means is this instrumentation is incredibly configurable. Just by changing the driver mode selector from Tour to Sport or Tour to Eco will change a default set of information for each of these displays. So if you want to have some minor interaction with your configurable instrument panel, turn the knob with it from the factory set, link to driver mode, and it will change your displays to the things that are pertinent to that mode that you're in. Does that kind of make sense? Yes, no? Sir?
The T there that's indicated, that's going to be tour mode?
That is telling you tour mode, yeah. If it's weather, you'll have
How do
it.
you distinguish between tour mode and track mode?
TR for track mode.
It is TR, okay.
Yep, it's T sub R. It's a little small letter R.
Okay.
Any more questions about this stuff? I know it's a lot, but it's, yeah, you're going to have to buy one. If you want to know what's in the... Wait. If you want to know what's in the car, you're going to have to buy the car.
Hey, Paul?
Yes?
For those of us that are illiterate when it comes to all this technology, and I'm sure the salesmen are going to be even dumber about it. Are you going to be available when I get out of the teach me and set this crap all up?
I will say this. If the salesmen are ill-prepared, it's the salesman's fault, because I know firsthand the level of training and documentation that's being prepared for them and the level of information and education that's being made available to them. For the first list of dealerships that are getting Stingrays, it is mandatory that somebody has this information at the dealership. I hope for your sake that you get that guy when you go to pick up your car.
Take museum delivery.
I would strongly encourage you to take museum delivery for that reason, because the museum delivery personnel are going to be better equipped. That's my personal opinion. I was one, so that is absolutely my personal opinion. Thomas is one. Thomas, raise your hand so everybody can call on you. Thomas's cell phone number is, no, I'm kidding. a problem. You used to be able to request me. I've recently moved. My wife and I moved out of state. So I'm still back for events. I still come back to do things like this. And I'm very sad that I left, but it was, somebody made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. So we took advantage of it. Titusville, Florida. Anybody coming to Eckler's? I'm like 5 minutes from Eckler's.
Give me your address.
Exactly. And I'll help you put your aftermarket stuff on. We'll go over this stuff. And then I'll probably go with you to Disney World, because I wasn't kidding. My wife and I go to Disney World every weekend. So, yes?
Is this information that is going to be in a separate document, or is it going to be embedded in the owner's manual?
There is a great deal of this information embedded in the owner's manual. Extracting it is up to you, for sure. I started out doing this like I did. Are you familiar with the tutorial that I did for the C6?
No.
Yeah. Okay. In 2008, a labor of love, as somebody who understood intimately the navigation system in the C6, I kind of was tired of it getting beat up, and I took it upon myself to write a easy to understand tutorial. And has anybody in here used it? Was it easy to understand?
Yes.
Was it helpful?
Much better.
Okay.
And I made copies of it and gave it to members in the club. They didn't attend the seminar like I did, but they could still, were more comfortable. They still didn't like the system. But they were more comfortable using it.
I actually have copies of the 6th generation one here. I'm going to make this available through the museum, and ultimately probably some through General Motors, but I'm doing the exact same level of tutorial for this system that I did for the 6th generation system, and probably my next presentation here will be that tutorial as opposed to the intro. People kind of want to learn and understand more about it now because they don't have one yet. Once you have one, then it'll be about teaching how to make the most out of it. It's a lot more intuitive than the C6 nav system was, that I can say with absolute certainty. But like the instrument panel, for example, is the new nav system in my opinion. I think this is very in-depth. I don't want to call it complicated, because if you press enough buttons, you'll find what you want. And I can't say that for the old nav system, but in this case, moving around through enough menus, the real question becomes whether or not you'll ever find it again.
Is there an easy way to get back to the factory defaults?
There is.
Yeah, you mess this all up.
It's basically, it's going to translate into one key press, a scroll of the menu wheel, and another key press to return to factory defaults.
Is that in the settings?
Yes, it is. Yeah, settings menu, scroll down to it, press the button, reset factory defaults, and you'll be right back to the starting point. I'd recommend you do that earlier rather than later, after you've gotten a lot of stuff plugged in and all your information the way you like it. But yeah. That's it? No, sir.
There's an outer ring, the tack gauge. With
Yes.
the, 500, 1500, 2500, and there's colors.
Yes, there are.
What do the colors translate to?
Shift. They start changing as you're getting closer to red line. So they're.
And that's all that means.
That's all that means. They're.
Assist you to shift point.
Well, two things, and thank you for saying it that way. It is indicative of shifting, but when you have the car set to rev matching on versus rev matching off, information changes color. The gear selector, for example, will be orange when you've got the rev match setting on versus not. But in terms of the outer ring, it's indicative of a shift point. Question? No? Okay, good. Hey, here's some of the stuff that's there. We talked about, and when I say some of, I'm not kidding. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the up and down menu choices, all from Tour. These are some of the things that you can bring up. Tire pressure. On track mode, you can get tire temperature, very cool feature. It doesn't actually measure the temperature of the air in the tire, it measures the temperature of the valve stem, and then through some very complex algorithms calculates, based on engine revolutions, miles driven, turns, whether or not your tires are warm, and it will indicate cold, warm, hot, and it will change. If you've got a Z51, it will change the driving parameters of the ELSD based on your tire temperature. It won't give you more, it won't ask for more traction than it has to offer. So tire pressure, fuel range. When you're in fuel range, you'll get your instant fuel economy. If I had been moving at this time, so it would be good to be taking pictures of these displays while moving. It will tell you if you're in V4 or V8 mode. The oil life remaining, much like the C6, it's a countdown type system. It's the same type of algorithm that's looking at starts and stops, RPMs, and trip meters. There's trip A, trip B, and you can bring up your fuel economy and such.
Do trip A and D reset at 2,200 miles, or does it go to 9,000 miles?
I believe it goes to 9,000. I didn't get to drive either of those distances, so I don't know. Honestly, I'll ask and we can find out. I believe I think it's 99999 is my understanding. But
yeah.
Just from the information menu, and remember I told you a few slides ago how many different menus there were with all the things that you can change. This is what you can bring up from the information menu, left arrow, and then scroll through. Trip meter A and B, fuel range indicating V4 V8 mode, eco index information. You can see how you're doing on the green side of things with greater fuel economy. Oil life remaining, tire pressure sensors, best and average fuel economy, fuel used, and over what period of time. And engine hours and lifetime RPM. I predict that's going to be the new standard in buying a used Corvette. If you want to find out if somebody's taken their car, you know, to 10,000 miles, a quarter mile at a time, they're going to have a lot higher RPMs and a lot more lifetime RPM usage, or a guy that's got the car on the track versus a guy that's tooling around town to go get ice cream of an evening after a club meeting. On the performance menu, and I mentioned that there's some specific items that are available on the performance display. You'll have access to a G meter. G meter is like the G meter in the C6, what you can bring up on the HUD right now. Lateral acceleration. But what's really cool is everybody's seen Jim Miro's run around the Nürburgring, and they have embedded the data down the bottom. It's a little moving squiggly in a round circle with 1.25 Gs in each at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. That's called a friction circle. That's a real-time, or a G-force bubble. That's a real-time display of your Gs that you're imparting on the vehicle in forward, backward, left, and right. And that display floats and moves around. It doesn't record a highest. That's what the G meter is for. But this lets you know that in addition to the lateral acceleration information from the G meter. There's a performance timer. Cool feature. You can set the starting point and you can set the stopping point, configurable with the options menus. If you want to know what your 0 to 60 time is, you set the starting point to 0, you set the stopping point to 60, and mash the pedal. As soon as it moves off of 0, it'll start the timer. As soon as it goes through 60, it'll stop the timer. So no more fumbling for your stopwatch when you're trying to do, or taking out your phone as you're going down the straight. It's got a performance timer log. It's a lap timer on the track mode, and I'll show you a display of this. I'll show you a slide with this on it in a second. It will display your current best lap time. It will display your current lap time, and it will display your previous lap time. So anybody that attends the museum high-performance driving events, like Jack is now going to for the rest of his life, and me, when you cross the start-finish line, you indicate the timer. When you come back around, hit it again. It'll move your current display to the previous display. Since that was your first display, it's also going to appear in your best. And as you keep going around the track, your current will always be real-time counting up. Yeah, it's a manual reset when you cross the line. Oil temperature, oil pressure, battery voltage, transmission fluid temperature, tire temperature like we talked about. And in the performance menu, you can get to the tachometer variation with a swept needle, no center information displayed if you want it, and that's in sport mode through the performance menu. With the audio source submenu, AM, FM, Pandora, XM, if you have audio plugged in, your USB, your SD, your phone via cable, phone via Bluetooth, you can get to all of those things through the audio menu. That's a left press of the steering wheel arrow. The information menu comes up. You scroll down to the audio menu, and that's the information that you can have available on audio. So we talked about the navigating arrows. Bright white means there's information available. Grayed out means there is not information available. So in this particular case, that is grayed out. If you press to the right, nothing happens. This is sort of the all-in-one vehicle information display. If you select the information menu icon, you have configuration information that you can bring up here. One of the screen changes will give you all of the vitals of your car in one place. And for free, you get this really cool Stingray rendering.
In your color?
No. When this system was born, it was just sort of a generic bubble vehicle, and it's evolved into having this, and I love that. Again, don't stare at it while you're driving for any length of time, but it's a really, really good image. This is the track display. So you're in track mode. If you're linked to the driver mode setting, this is what you're going to get by default. This is the lap timer we were talking about. So there's your current, previous, and best lap times right there. Rock, this is for you.
Thank you. You'll program that for me, right?
Oh, count on it. You know I will.
You know I'm not going to read any directions at all.
You never have. I have got you covered. All set. 10 minutes. We're almost done. Actually, we're not almost done. I lied. All right, the configurable displays down the bottom. All of these can be changed. They can be eliminated. You can have nothing there if you want. You can have 2 things there, 1 thing there, all 4 there, however you want to configure that. And everything you want to know about the car, you can select from and choose. If you wanted to have 4 oil pressure gauges displaying, why you would, I have no idea, but you can. You can scroll through each of the types for each of the locations and put them there. All right, head-up display. Just wanted to show a couple of quick images of the head-up display. This is the head-up display in track mode. That's the head-up display in sport mode. There's 3 modes for the HUD, Tour, Sport, and Track. Like Street and Track you had in the C6. This has 3. Whether you go in Tour is basically going to give you the Tour HUD mode if it's defaulted to. Track mode has the same type of a horizontal display as the racing display does, so you can get a lot of the same information. You get select your G-force, shift point, so on. Okay, navigation if equipped, and you see I left this for last. We only have 10 minutes left. I could probably even get through it in 10 minutes, which is neat. Never been able to say that about the prior navigation system. It's really easy to use. It works really well. There's some neat features that I'm probably not going to have time to talk to. I mean, honestly, Rock 1 can attest, I can do 30 minutes just on what time is it. So if anybody wants to talk to me some more about it, find me. I'm around all day today. Find me on the board.
Track map's built in?
It does not.
I don't want to get lost on the track.
Well, I heard something about a spin at VIR last June, so maybe a map pointing me in the other direction may not have been a bad thing.
Yeah. We have to speak to the engineers about the power supply.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot it wasn't your fault.
There was a spin. That was Ellen from the past.
Paul?
Yes.
Paul, real quick. That shows a schematic of a city.
Yes.
Do cities show up?
Yes.
With actual buildings in them?
Yeah, this is the 3D mode of the navigation display. So you're getting a lot closer to your portables with this system, trust me when I tell you. This is a 3D, you have a top-down view and street-level view. Zooming in and out will affect this. You can pinch to zoom, put your finger on the screen and move anywhere you want. Cool feature about this, rather than having to drop a pin like you used to have to set a favorite, and because nobody liked the system, nobody used that part of the system anyway. But you can bring up the favorites and just press and hold the favorite and it'll set your program destination as a favorite if you want to get back to it, like your home, for example. So menu structure is very simple. Tap the screen, menu appears. Plus and minus on the zoom. Reset. What reset is if you've been touching the screen and moving and you're driving in Bowling Green, but your map is now on California, with just a press of the reset button, it will recenter the map display on your current location. The destination icon is pretty much how you're going to interact with it to do everything. From the destination screen, and just a quick example, this is the navigation Like you get the turn-by-turn information in the heads-up display in street mode on the C6, you can actually also get it in the tour mode on the IP and on the head-up display. So they're both present. Two things. This menu is available on all screens. It's kind of a dock. It's your favorites menu. You can delete things out of the favorites menu. You don't delete them from the main system when you actually do that. You can have up to 5 elements in the dock. So you can alter the configuration, you can delete it, arrange it, do whatever you want to do with it. The bottom menu we talked about is destination and menu and reset, resume. Like the other menus, tap the screen, it appears, don't interact with it, and it disappears, and you'll get the full map screen to come back up again. So within the navigation menu, which is the last button to the right, and again, there's that favorites button that I keep talking about. Press it, brings up the favorites, and anything you want to add to it, press and hold the favorite location. So this is what you get when you press the menu button here. This is the menu screen. So this will bring up, if you're under route guidance or have been under route guidance, the first thing that appears is resume your route guidance. Your voice preferences in terms of spoken information, both from it and from you. Displays your current location in coordinate format. Real-time traffic updates as long as you're hooked up to OnStar subscriber service. Map view. So places of interest icons, whether or not they appear on the screen all the time, and you don't need them to as critically with this system anymore, but if you are going to be interacting without a passenger in the car, I still recommend the POI icons because as they're passing by, you can select them and navigate to them, even if you're alone in the vehicle. So the rest of the menu is voice recognition, address, recent destinations, contacts, POIs, and destination saved as favorites. So this is a 2D, more of a 2D map view. This is the keyboard. So anytime you want to do anything, you press the destination button, this is what you get. If you want to speak it, press the voice button and say it. If you want to find an address versus where you've been recently versus a contact that you've saved or that you have available either in the phone or in the contact database or a POI, you've got keyboard autocomplete feature. If you've ever typed it in before, it's going to start filling it in as it starts to recognize the information you've typed in. It displays how it understood the entry so you know right away. When you were working with the C6, remember the keys would gray out as it was trying to narrow down your selections. And if it was in the database wrong or you spelled it wrong, you were stuck with it because the keys just went away and you couldn't do anything other than back up and try again. This doesn't do that. It tells you what it understood, and it'll help you deal with those types of issues. So these are the types of searches that are available. These are how the results are grouped with full address or states or cities or intersections or streets. They're grouped originally to start with by the order in which it found them, because things pop up faster in the database for it. You can press the sort button and have it arrange them by distance. The system uses logic in its searches to enhance its results. So you can POI search by name, search by proximity. It's going to give you the first 20 options in the list. Once it searches, it tells you here 20 plus. You can scroll down the list. When you get to the bottom, just show next, and it'll bring up the rest of them. You can search on pizza. If it's got pizza in the name, it's going to pop up. You can search on types, fuel and auto, and food and nightlife. So all the basic stuff that all the modern aftermarket GPSs have, they're all available here. When you start getting the POI information displaying, you can press on any one of those POIs, and it will actually bring up that display information. Okay. All right, we're down to 2 minutes. All right, last part with contacts. You can use either your phone's contact list or the vehicle's contact list. You can download contacts to the vehicle. So places you've been, it keeps. So as you start building that list, you switch to the vehicle's contacts and your list is there, your favorites are there. Or if your phone has address information in it, you can bring up the iPhone list, or in this case, mine says Paul's iPhone, but yours is going to be whatever your phone is named, obviously. Your contact list will come up. If it has a complete address that it can navigate to, you're going to have destination information appearing there. Just press that and it will set it as a destination for you. Press go and you're on your way. So, no more DVDs, no more worrying about what region you are in or your destination is in. It's intuitive in the way it searches. It has much improved voice recognition. It has much better integration among systems. And you can operate the system while you have a passenger in the vehicle while you're in motion. MyLink system provides this, that, and the other thing. Oh, this last one's important. I'm not going to glaze over it. I was going to. You're going to have to invest some effort. You're going to have to take some time to learn this, and I think some of what I showed you guys today illustrates that. Plan on spending a good hour with the manual, touching on the buttons. There is no substitute for hands-on with this system, so plan on that, okay? And that's it.
Did you say that this presentation will be available on museum site?
Will be available, and it's probably going to be available through the delivery department.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Very informative, and gives me a better understanding of what to expect on the C7 versus our C6.
Yeah.